Good evening. Ooh, it's loud tonight. This meeting will be called to order. This is a regular meeting of the Oakland Board of Education. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. A schedule of regular meetings of the Board of Education was adopted at our reorganization meeting in January, and scheduled notice of said meetings have been posted and maintained in the interior window of the front door there of the administrative offices, as well as in the retrospect, Courier Post, and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Oakland. Now you'll go to a roll call.
Mrs. Ezekiel?
Here.
Mr. Stotts?
Here.
Mrs. Rotondo?
Here.
Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Tavy late probably. Mrs. Marmion? Here. Mr. Schaefer?
Here.
Mrs. Butchko?
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. There's no executive session at this time. We're going to move right into presentations. First up, we have Dr. Whitehouse for the CPAG presentation. This is the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. Dr. Whitehouse.
Incredibly dedicated to the students in our district. There are many things our department is doing well, and we're seeing a lot of student progress. And one of the areas we have identified as a need of growth is inclusion, and we're going to talk about that a lot tonight. We have found some pockets of really strong inclusive practices in Oakland, but we also recognize that we're in need of a comprehensive approach to really move this work forward. So doing this effectively involves a lot of district partnerships, and we've started to develop some this year. First is our Special Education Parent Advisory Group, who you're going to hear from tonight. We've been working with the building principal, Ms. Jen Bolden. Thank you, Jen. And the New Jersey Coalition for Inclusive Education has been doing some professional development with us. So we really appreciate the partnerships that we're forming to move this work forward. And I am now going to introduce you to Mrs. Allie Hegley, our CPAG parent leader. So she's here to talk to you about some of the work we've been doing in our group and how we are taking steps toward building a more inclusive community in Oakland.
Thanks, Beth. Hi, everybody. I'm Allie Hegley. Like Beth said, I'm the parent leader of the Collingswood and Oakland CPAG. This is our group vision statement. The Collingswood and Oakland CPAG is an empowering and inclusive partnership between stakeholders that support students with disabilities. So pretty simple. Our group includes parents and caregivers, teachers, educators, administrators that are related to special education. What is CPAG? It's an acronym that stands for Special Education Parent Advisory Group. We're a parent-led group working in partnership with the district. So like I said, we have Beth at our meetings. I lead the meetings, but we also have a lot of teachers and paraprofessionals and other people that, case managers and things that attend. So we really welcome that partnership and that sharing of ideas in our group. We meet monthly, and we have a membership of 80 plus members. This is Collingswood and Oakland combined. We have about 20 people that regularly attend the meetings to work towards our goals. And we focus on systemic issues related to special education. So that means we're not really like a support group talking about individual issues with advocacy. We're talking about kind of big picture issues and how we can work together to benefit all students. And who should join? Like I said, parents and caregivers of students with an IEP or 504, educators, students, community members interested in issues related to disability rights and special education. So these are the things that we do, the primary kind of pillars of our work. Like Beth said, the number one kind of focus area is promoting inclusion and advocating for students with disabilities in our school community. We serve as a resource to our community through meetings, events, and social media presence. If you have Facebook or Instagram, you can follow us at Calls Oak CPAG. We have some content going on right now because it's Neurodiversity Celebration Week. So that's one way that we can serve our community, is bringing some of that content to people. And we also advise the district administration on policies, practices, and programs for students with IEPs and 504s. And that's more of that collaborative partnership. So talking about inclusion and what we mean by that, how do we measure inclusion? All the metrics that measure inclusion are based on this benchmark of 80% or more of their day in the general education setting. So that means we're talking about students with often intellectual or developmental disabilities. So thinking things like autism, Down syndrome, et cetera. So students with those disabilities often are in self-contained classrooms, which that would affect their placement, and that would not qualify as an included student. So this is the benchmark that we use, and the national average in 2022, the average inclusion rate was 66%. So now we're going to look at some data that was shared. Beth mentioned NJCIE. We're fortunate in New Jersey to have this wonderful organization working towards inclusive education and working with districts. So they shared this data with us, and now I'm going to share it with you. Yeah. So how are we doing? This data is showing Oaklyn, the rate for including is just under 43%. And you'll see New Jersey is low. We've been around 45% since 1995. For a little history lesson, 1990 was the IDEA, ADA, like Disabilities Act. So we've been pretty stagnant since then here in New Jersey. And Oaklyn is, right in line below the New Jersey rate. And I just wanted to also say that some other data that she showed that, New Jersey is highly ranked for education, general education overall, and that's fantastic. But we're ranked almost dead last for inclusive education. And she showed a lot of data too with other states that are also in the top 10 for education overall that are doing a great job with including. So it's not like you can't have one without the other. In fact, inclusive education practices really are shown to benefit all students, not just students with disabilities. So this was an eye-opener for me, this data, and it really kind of motivated me to let other people know where we are so that we can kind of, realize the baseline and work together to move forward. So I've been doing this work with the CPAG since January 2022. And we've really been focused on developing more inclusive school culture. We're thinking about the things that we can do right now with the people we have in the buildings for free, and trying to be proactive about that from the parent group side. So the things we wanted to focus on that we identified as a group was normalizing support needs, using the language that's preferred by the disability community, developing parent and self-advocacy skills, and promoting staff learning opportunities. So the two main ways we've done this in the past 2 school years are our celebration weeks, Inclusive Schools Week and Neurodiversity Celebration Week. Just to elaborate on that quickly, Neurodiversity Celebration Week's happening right now. We sent around a packet of resources to all the school principals. So that's all the building principals at the elementary schools in Oaklyn and Collingswood, Collingswood Middle School and Collingswood High School, and gave them resources to introduce this content about neurodiversity, autism, ADHD in like a strengths-based, proactive way. It's sort of our updated idea of like an autism awareness day with a little bit more content and meaning behind it, or a lot more. Oh, thank you, Beth. Okay, so this, she was able to track down some photos. This was the hexagon activity from Inclusive Schools Week from this year. And this is this was great. This is where the students all designed hexagons with different qualities about themselves and then found common edges and kind of put it all together to show that, even with our differences, we can all connect in a different way and we're all better together. So we just kind of talk about these messages of accepting differences and being inclusive to all. A couple other areas that we're working on as a group in CPAG are building community partnerships, hosting guest speakers, and putting together district events. So these are the kind of 3 ways that we're tackling that. We shared an inclusive book list at Collingswood Book Festival this year. So that's just like a step towards showing inclusivity in the community. We've also had talk about like having like a sensory tent at the farmer's market and things like that. So we're always open to those kind of ideas and just like using the connections that people already have to send those messages. Guest speakers, like I said, we were able to host the guest speaker from NJCIE with that eye-opening data and just a wonderful resource. One of the greatest things about that was seeing a lot of teachers attend to get that information, which was really encouraging. And then we're hoping to plan a district walk to Night Park this spring for autism. So we're working with the special education teachers to coordinate some plans for that. And I just have this inspirational quote to share. I won't read it to you, but the idea here is this is doable. We can do this together. And I am a very positive and hopeful person. It's been a tough few years for optimists, but I'm still going. So just the vision for what it means to have high expectations for every student and not limiting students' opportunities based on their disabilities. So looking ahead, we're looking to you, members of the board, to help us with this work that we're trying to do on the policy side, since we're working kind of on the more cultural aspect. So we are looking at implementing an inclusion team as a part of broader DEI initiatives, collaborative development of an inclusion roadmap. This involves reviewing the data of where we are now, taking accountability for that, raising awareness, and then establishing measurable goals of how to move that 43% metric. And an inclusion pledge. A lot of districts will have this as sort of part of their standard, that just centers inclusion as part of the mission for our work. And continue utilizing the NJCIE opportunities. I know Dr. Whitehouse has had some success, and there is money out there around this, and we are going after it, and we're going to keep going after it. Collingswood and Oaklyn are both communities that value progress and inclusivity and equity. So definitely taking advantage of those opportunities and getting ahead of the curve. So that is all from me. Thanks for listening, and I'm more than happy to answer questions if you have any. Thank you.
Do you have to have a confirmed diagnosis to be included in that table, or is it any? I'm just trying to understand what the group is. Is it a percentage of children on the IEP, or do they have to have confirmed diagnoses?
It would be IEPs, because it would be kids that are in self-contained placements or any placement that's more restrictive than a general education classroom for 80% or more of their day.
Okay.
So I mean that would be an IEP to necessitate that placement. The population that we're focusing on are students with disabilities, documented disabilities, that are already receiving supports at school, but are often receiving their supports in segregated settings away from any of their grade level peers, and only with disabled peers. Yep.
Any other questions? I just wanted to make a comment. So my son is in middle school now, but when he was 3, started with an IEP. There was a CPAC group at the time in Oaklyn, and I attended all those meetings with Dr. Whitehouse, and we were really happy if we got 3 parents there. And so I'm so impressed with the work that you've done in just a little over 2 years in growing this group to where it's at. So thank you for that. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to move on to the counseling SEL update. This is Ms. Barnett. We're switching? Okay. We'll move on to the Spanish program update. All right, sorry. So Ms. Bolden.
I'm going to
Yeah,
introduce Mrs. Julie Schneider. Earlier in the year, our board had asked for some additional presentations to get to know a little bit more about the different programs within our building. So we did one on STEM with Ms. Vistas, and now we have Mrs. Julie Schneider here to present on our world language program, which is Spanish.
And Avery's going to pass around a handout. That is actually that one up there, which says "Why Learn Another Language." Obviously, I think it's a really important part of the curriculum and life. So, in the name of advocacy, we want to make sure that everybody else is having that same thought. So, a lot of advantages to learning another language, even whether or not you become fluent, right? Some of them on here becoming more creative, doing better on standardized tests, and really the most important one, in my opinion, is making connections with other people, right? Being able to connect. So you can take a look at that, peruse it at your leisure. So I did want to share, these are some, this is the actual guidelines for world language. So again, it's more than just words, right? It's more than just vocabulary. So it's about communication, it's about cultures, connections, comparisons, and communities. And all of these are really an integral part of learning another language, and very useful for our students. So comparing lets them learn about their own identities at the same time as they're learning about other cultures. And then I also have this, which talks about fluency and how to get there. You'll see at the very bottom is novice, and that's where most students, definitely in elementary school, and they'll hang out at novice for quite a while, right? But the goal is to move up that, and to become able to have more sophisticated language. So these are some of my goals. I'm not going to read everything, but I would say some things that I definitely think are the most important are making connections with other learning. So connecting to what's going on in their other classes to keep it relevant is really important. Keeping in mind the diversity of the Spanish-speaking world. So knowing that it goes beyond Cancun and Mexico, right? There's a lot of Spanish speakers in the world from all different countries, and that's a really important thing to keep in mind. And then the last one up there, it says a desire to learn more Spanish, other languages, and about other cultures and countries. So again, the goal is that it expands beyond the classroom, and it could expand beyond Spanish, and that's great. I have students that are super interested in Japanese, and I think that's awesome. So definitely the idea to say that it's accessible, it's possible. I'm not a native speaker, but I am fluent, and they can become too if that's their goal. And if it's not Spanish, maybe it's something else, and we support that for sure. So these are some of the things we do in class, so certainly more than just these things. We try to keep it enjoyable and doable. So pretty, fun things. It is a special, so again, we want them to want to come to class, but also they're learning at the same time. So we look for a lot of things with repetition that they're able to then continue with. So I have a couple pictures. So this is in the name of collaboration with a music teacher. We have, those are the second grade students, and they learned a song in Spanish, so they know all the lyrics, which I'm very proud of. And then they also are playing it on instruments and singing at the same time. And one thing I did is I had the lyrics written for them, and they drew a picture to go with each line, so they understand what they're singing, which is really important. Their pronunciation is excellent, and the music teacher is happy with their singing as well. So we're going to have a concert for parents, which is really neat, and we're doing that with K through third. And I will say the influence of the music teacher collaborating with her has been really great, because I probably wouldn't have taught the song, and they're enjoying it, and they're doing a great job with it. This is something for Black History Month. We had students just look at, and again, in collaboration with Ms. Vistas, we got a bunch of books about
Black people, and students kind of looked through them and chose one and found their birthday. And it was also learning to find the timeline in some cases to find, they didn't always understand that. So they found the birthday and they were able to write the birthday in Spanish, and then we did presentations. And what's cool about that is some students came up on their own because they wanted to, and some were nervous, and other students volunteered to go up with them and just kind of help if they needed help. And I thought that was pretty cool as well. So I'm going to need my fourth graders. This is something we did. We listened to this book, and then they were able to read it to each other in Spanish because there's a lot of repetition. And then they used it to create their own book to make their ideal day. So we took it from the Spanish, and then they also got it to connect it to their own lives. If they got to decide what would they have first, would they still have Spanish class? Some people did not put Spanish class in their ideal day, and I said that is okay. I accept that. Some of them put recess at the end of the day, which I thought was kind of a good idea, right? So it was kind of a cool exercise. So I'm going to have Avery is going to read the book in Spanish, and then we have Nicolas is going to translate it into each page into English for us. Yes? What? Yes. So Nicolas in English? Aplauso, ¿no? Muy, right? An excellent pronunciation. Muy bien. All right? And then Kaylee is going to read the book that she made for her ideal day of school. She's going to read that. Excelente, ¿no? Muy bien. All right. Gracias. Yep. So again, they got to reflect a little bit. If they got to choose, what would they put in their day? And they did a really nice job. I have one more student who is going to come up. All right, Sam. So for fifth grade, one of the things we worked a lot on was adjectives. So we did it in a lot of different ways. We played games with it. And then one connection we made is that the fifth graders all chose an important African American in history that they did a report on. So we got to make a representation of that in Spanish to describe that person. And what's cool is they didn't have to research the person because they already knew, right? So they just kind of give, so it's really connecting what they're learning in English and Spanish, which makes a lot of sense. So Sam's going to read his in Spanish and English. do an excellent job. So, gracias. I have gracias a Nicolás, Kaylee, Avery, y Sam. Y gracias a ustedes, cierto, por ver. I'm here. Email me questions, anything. I love it. I'm here for it. All right.
so much. 3 wonderful presentations tonight. Particularly love having the students here, so thank you all for that. Thank you, parents, too. All right, we are going to move on to Committee of the Whole. Is there a motion to go into Committee of the Whole?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now in Committee of the Whole. I'm going to ask Dr. McDowell a quick question on the side real fast. Okay, we're going to talk about the budget, but we're going to do that a little later on in the meeting. Dr. McDowell is going to give us an update on where we are with state aid and some of our advocacy efforts. I have just a couple of announcements, and then I wanted to see if anyone else had anything to discuss before we move on to the meat of our agenda. Comment for tonight. Later on in the agenda, we're going to be talking about, voting on the academic calendar for the year. So I just wanted to note that our board struggled to reach a consensus in our committee meetings. I have asked Dr. McDowell to make his recommendation on what he thinks is best as superintendent of Oaklyn, which is typically what we do. And so the way the calendar is now, the recommendation that we'll be voting on aligns very closely with Collingswood, but we will vote on it in section 11. So just wanted to make that update there. Another update, shortly before the meeting, Chad and I received an email from the Oakland Police Department. They're trying to reach out to IT about cameras, and so I'm just going to ask Mrs. Coleman and Dr. McDowell to follow up with IT about that so that we can get that issue resolved. And I think that's it that I have, and I wanted to see if anyone else had anything that they wanted to bring up at this time for Committee of the Whole. All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to come out of Committee of the Whole?
So moved. Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor? All right, we are now out of Committee of the Whole. Moving into Section 5, important dates. There are some activities coming up here. Gym night on Friday. Next week starts spring break, so there will be an early dismissal here in Oaklyn on Thursday, March 28th. Then we'll move into spring break. And then there's some other PTA activities there. And then next board meeting is April 30th here in the library at 6:30. And that is when we will do our full budget hearing for next year. So now we are moving into routine board minutes, section 6. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the February board meeting?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. I have a question, actually a correction. So I believe when I looked at it yesterday, so I don't know if this has been corrected yet, that it mentioned that the counseling update, because that was originally on the agenda for last month, I just want to make sure that that is taken off and that the counseling update happened tonight and not in February. So just if we can note that correction. All in favor of approving the board minutes with that correction?
Aye.
Okay, approved. Thank you. Section 7. We are up to our first public comment section. Please stand, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. This particular public comment portion is for items on the agenda only. So if you have any comments to make about the agenda, this is the time. Or there will be another public comment section at the end of the meeting for other issues. All right, hearing none, we are moving on to section 8 for the superintendent report. Dr. McDowell.
So good evening, everyone. And as our students are walking out, thank you again for presenting. Thank you so much. And so section 8.01 is the enrollment report, which is attached as of as of February 2023, enrollment was 275. February 2024 is 266. The ASSA enrollment report is also attached for solidifying back in October, in addition to the current principal's report for the month of February. 8.02 is the school safety drill report, and 8.05 is the attached child study team report. Just have a few updates for the community that we want to make sure go on the public record. And so earlier this month, we reached out to our various school communities to share information regarding significant reductions in state aid to Oaklyn, despite the state's announcement to significantly increase overall educational spending. In addition to the rising cost of educational services for students. As a board, as a community, we're extremely disappointed to receive this news, and have reached out to the New Jersey Department of Education as we are unclear as to the reason for the state's continued decisions. We'll continue to advocate for our school community as we plan for the upcoming school year. We would like to publicly thank our board members this evening, Mr. McMillan and Ms. Buchko, specifically for their partnership, advocacy, and public hearing testimony. In addition, we'd like to thank District 6 State Senator James Beach, Assemblyman Louis Greenwald, and Assemblywoman Pamela Lampett for listening to school districts that were affected, as well as advocating on our behalf at the state level. There will be continuing hearings leading up to the formal vote and the approval of the governor's budget, because we are one of 140 school districts across the state that saw pretty significant reductions in state aid despite almost $1 billion increase in educational spending. So we were equally surprised and disappointed by the financial cuts amid the lurking fiscal cliff due to the expiration of COVID-era federal funding this September. So over the coming weeks and months, we will continue to explore actions to appeal our decreases in funding, as well as challenges associated with the state's flawed school funding formula. We are coordinating our advocacy efforts with surrounding districts that are similarly affected and our state representatives. We must currently accept our fiscal situation as being difficult, and it will require us to make tough financial decisions in the coming weeks. In April, we will be able to communicate in detail the impact of this financial challenge to our school community. So as we review continued requests both at the school level and at the department level, we will continue to prioritize the needs of our students as well as the retention of our staff. And so although we will be submitting a preliminary budget this evening to the Camden County Office of Education, it will take us a little over a month in order to have a firmer grasp of what the actual impact will be. And so over the next month, we're going to be working with the leadership team on this campus, our association leadership, and community partners in order to finalize a budget that honors the values of our community. We understand this is not what we were hoping for, but time and time again in Oaklyn, we have proven to be resilient despite what gets thrown at us. And we'll get through this together. In the interim, tomorrow, we will be sending out a request for our community with templates and contact information for local and state representatives, asking for your support to advocate on our behalf for an equitable school funding formula that prioritizes and values the needs of all students in the state of New Jersey. And so that will be coming out to our community members tomorrow. And so I don't like to lead with challenges, but due to the magnitude of the state's decision, it was important that we enlist our community in the assistance of this effort so that our kids are not negatively impacted by their decision. In celebration of Neurodiversity Week, we just want to thank CPAG. We want to thank the leadership team on campus. We want to thank the Office of Special Services for their continued leadership. These are district-wide initiatives, and it's an important step towards making our school community more inclusive. And so I'm not going to recap what was shared during the presentation, but what I will say is that we are extremely excited about what is going to take place in each of our classrooms this week. as our launching pad and as our celebration of all different kinds of minds that are here in our school. We'd also like to give a gentle reminder that the preschool lottery is live. And so for community members with children ages 3 and 4, they are eligible for full-day preschool without charge for the 24-25 school year. If your child is eligible, we encourage you to visit the registration page and complete the application prior to April 1st. We'd also like to give a plug. Our students at the Calls Theater will be presenting Shrek the Musical this week. So it starts on March 21st. Tickets are still available at www.collingswoodtix.com. It's a 2-hour show, and we have over 50 talented secondary students and production staff, and this is a show that you don't want to miss. In addition, we would also like to recognize that we had students at our at Collingswood High School participate in a 4-day-long Model United Nations Convention in Philadelphia. Collingswood High School was one of 16 schools in the country to participate. The students engaged in these conferences were focused on international issues. They practiced public speaking, academic debate, and critical thinking. We'd like to thank our advisor, Mr. Goldburn, and all of the parent volunteers for supporting our student leaders. In addition, in celebration of Neurodiversity Week, our Ignite program, which is for students ages 18 to 21 with learning differences, participated in a trip to Delsey Regional High School to spend the day with pen pals. So students spent the day socializing, participating in engaging activities, including a scavenger hunt tour of the school. They met with the administration and shared a meal together. And our students did an amazing job representing our school, and what a great day, a great way to spend time with new friends. We'd like to publicly thank Mrs. Williams and Ms. O'Brien for leading this important effort. We'd also like to acknowledge that our high school Renaissance program, which represents performance, motivation, recognition, and pride, was established to recognize and honor students for positive academic and behavioral contributions. And so I think that we can all agree that the demands and desires of students in this day and age are changing as the world rapidly changes around them. And students are on a constant quest to surround themselves with experiences, belong to something greater, and then establish who they are as future leaders and ultimately find the success. And so this is achieved through the recognition of efforts and achievements of teachers and students and rewarding their academic performance through incentives on campus. And so we would just like to publicly congratulate the 194 students who earned this academic distinction for the second marking period. And they were each celebrated by grade level this past month during an assembly. We would also like to say happy anniversary to the Wellness Center at our secondary campus. It has now been open for 1 full year. We originally started in the high school and have fully expanded grades 6 through 12. And we have now integrated social and emotional learning as well as academic and behavioral support. And since its grand opening, we have supported over 250 secondary students and continue to grow. The Wellness Center collaborates with the counseling team, child study, middle school and high school administration, teachers, students, and families. And we are thankful to have a resource that allows the whole child to be seen, heard, and supported. And that concludes my report for this month.
Thank you very much for that update. Moving on to Section 9, the Business Administrator Board Secretary Report. Mrs. Coleman.
Alrighty, item 9.01 is a listing of your February monthly budget transfers. 9.02 are your financial statements. So it's your board secretary report, your treasurer's report, and your cash report. 9.03 is a listing of the purchase orders that have been issued for the month of March. 9.04 is a listing of the warrants to be paid tomorrow morning pending approval tonight.
Great, thank you. Moving on to Section 10, Finance Report. Ms. McMillan.
Hi, good evening. So 10.10 or 10.01 is a recommendation recommendation from the superintendent for the transfers that was spoken about in 9.01. 10.02 is the board secretary certifications of non-over expenditures. 10.03 is the board certifications of non-expenditures. 10.04 is approval of secretary and treasurer reports. 10.05 is purchase orders, as mentioned in 9.03. 10.06 is warrant approvals. 10.07 is the submission of the 2024 to 2025 budget to the New Jersey Department of Education. 10.08 is the submission of 2024 and 2025's preschool budget to the New Jersey Department of Education. 10.09 is the submission of amendment to the ARP ESSER grant. 10.10 is shared preschool instruction services agreement. 10.11 is the Camden County Educational Services Commission. 10.12 is the request for proposals. 10.13 is the use of facilities, the Healthy Kids as attached. 10.14 is the use of facilities, the Oaklyn Little League also attached. And then 10.15 is the use of facilities by the Staff Wellness Health Fair, which is a new thing that's happening. So we're looking for approval on 10.01 to 10.15.
Thank you. Yes. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions about those items?
Yeah,
from
believe it
board
or not,
members?
I have just a couple. On the budget, a couple of items. Number one, one of the things to balance the budget was a reduction of $30,000 in the maintenance work. I question whether or not that's prudent at this point in time in view of Keith's comments last week about the water intrusion in the front of the school. So I think it might be a mistake to cut money out of that. And the other thing is the supplies. We're cutting $107,000 out of the supplies. Understand that we're going to spend the money from this year's budget for next year's for supplies. But if we have $107,000 of extra money in this year's supplies, why do we have that? Did we tremendously over budget last year for supplies?
I can answer those questions. The first one, the cut to maintenance, I still left $30,000 in the budget for maintenance. And that's the maintenance line that's in your shared service agreement for Collingswood in case something breaks. But the additional is what I took out, so I didn't zero out maintenance completely. But again, we made cuts pretty much in every category. As far as supplies, it was all grant funds that were going to expire anyway, so it wasn't a draw to the budget of $100,000 that was in last year's budget or this year's budget. It was all grant money. So when we saw what the state was doing to Oaklyn, we met Jen Bold and Dr. McDowell, myself, and my assistant, and went through. And that's why the amendment to the grant is in the agenda tonight. We amended the grant to use it to spend for curriculum items that Mrs. Bolden needs to run her building next year. So all that is going to be spent up on items that are needed for the school out of grant monies.
Okay. Not sure I fully understand that, but I'm going to vote tonight to approve submitting the budget with the understanding that this is not the final approval. The final approval will be in April, and I may well change my mind between now and April, and I'm sure I'll have additional questions between now and April. So I'm voting yes tonight, but don't read too much into that at this point in time.
All right, thank you. Any other comments tonight? All right, on a roll call. Thank you.
Mrs. Ezekiel?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes.
Mrs. Rotondo?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Tavy?
Yes.
Mrs. Marmion?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Butchko?
Yes. All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Denise, a question for you.
Yep.
And I should have asked this faster, but item 10.15, the use of facilities. One of them is the Staff Wellness Health Fair, which is going to have a number of, I don't know whether they're calling presenters or they're going to have a booth or they're going to hand out things or whatnot. Do we have certificates of insurance from all those people that are going to participate?
I'll check. Yeah, I will check with the nurses. I'll check the paperwork.
Okay.
But it's going to be open to staff from Collingswood and Oaklyn.
All right, Thank you. Moving on to section 11, the curriculum and personnel committee. This is Mr. Schaefer.
All right, good evening. So item 11.01, we're looking for approval of a few field trips that you can see attached there for first, second, and third grade. Item 11.02, we're looking to approve for an assembly for the preschool students about West African drums. Item 11.03, we're looking to approve the proposed calendar for the 2024-2025 school year. You can see the decision that was made regarding Rosh Hashanah that is noted there that was mentioned earlier. Item 11.04, we're looking to approve a contract for Brandy Woods, Early Education High Impact Intervention Tutor. You can see they're right there, and that would be paid through the ESSER grants. It would be effective March 4th through June 18th. And item 11.05 is a correction for the after-school club hourly rate from $50.49 to $50.94. So just that little clerical correction there. Item 11.06, we are looking for tuition reimbursement for Maria Southard there. You can see the amount listed. And 11.07, we're looking to approve a travel expense that was completed by one of the staff members for professional development that she attended. So we are seeking approval on items 11.01 through 11.07.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do you want to ask if board members have any comments about any of those items or questions?
Just a comment. I know obviously we had some discussion, never came to I guess, consensus with the calendar. But just moving forward, right, we don't have to always align with Collingswood, just something to keep in mind. It's worth considering. And there are times where I think we need to consider where the days are. But, you know, at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for Oaklyn and for our students. So, again, it's not that we disregard the Collingswood calendar. I think there are times where certainly we want to align, especially if it involves professional development and if staff will be joining together. But as we continue to make those decisions moving forward, just, you know, to keep that in mind.
Thank you. I just want
No, go ahead. Okay, I'll echo Todd's comments. So Oaklyn has always gone to great lengths to prove that we were not the same district as Collingswood. We tried to maintain our independence because at some point in time, if we're in lockstep with Collingswood on everything that we do, there's no reason for us to exist. And the state might come to that conclusion too. So I'd like to avoid that. But the other thing is also we're giving an extra vacation day to the staff. The staff has to bargain for the vacation. They do that every time the contract comes up. They give us their requests, we give them our requests, and then we argue back and forth and we decide what's done. We've done that at this point in time. Now we're giving them an extra vacation day that's not bargained for. And I think that's a tremendous mistake. But that's me.
I'm going to chime in real fast unless anyone else.
I just wanted
Sorry.
I just feel like we have to have some type of consistency with this, with the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the days that now you have Juneteenth. They were off before; they're not going to be off for that. I just feel like it was all over the place. You know, someone came up here and said, you know, they wanted that day, a half day, a day off, something like that. I feel like we're taking away from a day where the kids are learning, and we added a day that they're just going to show up. It doesn't mean anything. So I personally don't understand it. Yom Kippur I also saw is on a Saturday next year. I'm not sure why we have a full day off on Friday for Yom Kippur. So I'm kind of trying to understand that also, how something falls on a weekend and we're taking the day off before for it if it starts at sundown of that Friday. So, you know, a half day was one thing. It still counts as a day. The kids are still coming in. They're getting something. Now it's a whole day off. I just feel like there has to be some type of consistency going forward with these days. Because like I said, we've had off for Juneteenth before. Now we don't. I don't know how you prioritize what's important and what's not to which group, honestly. So just my thoughts.
I just want to chime in and say it's hard to have consistency when the
holidays do not fall on the same day of the week. So I think we need to be a little flexible in that regard. When we were presented with the last 3 years of the holidays, many of them did fall on weekends. So we didn't have to make difficult decisions. But I will say that I think it would be helpful earlier in the process to have conversations with our fellow board members in Collingswood and to be in a little more lockstep of the conversations that are happening. I'm not saying that we have to align, but I'll bring up what Ms. Bolden did say in our committee, and I'm not sure if she said it in each committee, was that we do have at least one, sorry, I should know this, Collingswood District classroom in this building. And that it gets extremely confusing for parents. Three. It's been a long day. Up from the preschool, obviously. So that, this is, the drop-offs and the pickups are confusing enough. The days that the kids are in or out is also confusing. So I think absolutely I hear everyone's points, but that's another point to consider from the person who administers this building.
And just as an aside, Therese, if Collingswood has a day off and Oakland doesn't, that just means that we'll have 3 empty classrooms. It's not going to significantly affect the arrival and departure of the kids. Think about that for a minute.
No, I don't need to think about it. I disagree.
Oh, okay.
Just if I can speak about it. So a lot of community members, including myself, Denise has been there, Therese has been there, where we have elementary school students in Oaklyn and we have middle school, high school students in Collingswood. That's the drop-off confusion that she's talking about. We can have a day where we have to take off work because one of our kids is off school and the other one's not. So that's the consistency and the alignment that I would like to see. I understand what your hesitation is, but because we're a split district like that, it gets confusing with people with multiple kids.
I don't think we're giving the people in our district a lot of credit to just use some common sense. It's not, I get it. You're running around in the morning and trying to figure it out, but if people really can't follow 2 calendars, I don't know how we as a board are going to fix that.
So I just to clarify, that wasn't my point. Jimmy, thank you. I appreciate you. But that wasn't my point. I was reiterating not a point that I personally made. It was one that Ms. Bolden made in our committee, Jen. I think you heard it. That it's difficult that poses a difficulty for the administration and staff of this building. Just making that point. I don't think that in every situation we need to be lockstep with Collings, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just bringing up something that because it was said in my committee, I'm not sure it was said in all 3. That's all.
You want to? Thank you. I'm just going to wrap it up and say we don't align on half days. We haven't aligned on half days. I rather like that Oakland doesn't align on half days. There's been a lot of half days in Collingswood this year. I'm going to leave that part as that. I just want to make the note that the calendar as it stands right now has 181 days in it. So that is in alignment with contracts. If we do not use a snow day, then we would give back a day and end school on the 19th. So that all is dependent on the weather. If we use multiple snow days, the makeup days would be what is listed here, which would take away from spring break. So we would not be going past June 20th on the calendar as it is now. All right, so I'm just going to wrap up that discussion.
If there are no snow days, why would we give the extra day back?
No, I'm sorry, if we don't use a snow day.
Yeah, that's
Right.
So why wouldn't we go 181 days? Why do we have to have the minimum as the maximum? It's not going to hurt the kids to give them an extra day of school. I'm sorry. I don't want to give you a hard time about everything.
That wasn't me. You can check the contract.
Right. I'm going to move on. Are there any other questions about other, excuse me, items in this committee? And if not, we'll move on to a roll call.
Mrs. Ezekiel,
Yes.
Mr. Stotts,
Yes, except no on item 11.03.
Mrs. Rotundo,
Yes, abstain from 11.03.
Mr. McMillan,
Yes.
Mr. Tavy,
Yes.
Mrs. Marmion,
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Bushko.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to section 12. This is the School Community Relations and Policy Committee. Ms. Marmion.
Hi. Item 12.01 is the report from Collingswood from Mr. Tavy.
Good evening, everyone. I have our updates from February's Collingswood board meeting. Have some updates from last night as well. Just didn't get to send it out yet, so I can share that as well. So going back to February, we had a plethora of presentations. Got to see a sneak preview from Shrek the Musical. The kids were amazing, so highly recommend going to check that out. We saw some Black History Month performances and presentations. The SSDS report was presented by Mr. Gersick. CPAC committee presented as well. Some interesting data that we got to see tonight. And also, there was a presentation on the secondary counseling and programming for the middle school and high school. All those links were included in my email. Student reports in February that was at the blood drive had a great turnout, and they just provided some activities updates that included Black History Month, updates on the bowling team and the mock trial team. Committee of the whole, Collingswood board talked about teacher retention and turnover and faculty morale. Upcoming dates, most of which have already passed at this point, but just another quick commercial for Shrek the Musical. When I do send out the notes from last night, I did put a hyperlink into the website, so if you want to purchase tickets, you can do that. Building Grounds and Finance Committee updated tuition rates, shared services agreement for the assistant principal for pre-K with our building, and a cooperative swim team agreement with Audubon. Curriculum Committee, just some class trips for the middle school and high school. Also some updates to the high school program of studies of note. There's some changes to the students who take and pass AP courses that will receive credit on their transcripts, regardless of whether they actually take the exam or not, which is great. Also, there will be a tweak to the math curriculum at the high school. There'll be a 2-year Algebra 1, Geometry 1 combined course. The goal for that is to provide students some extra time before taking the the required Algebra 1 assessment for graduation. Students will who are taking honors algebra and those other courses, those will continue as they always have been. Personnel Committee approved the new Director of Buildings and Grounds and the new Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction. And the Culture, Climate, and Policy Committee is looking to provide some research and updates and feedback on an updated code of conduct. And that's it from February. Moving forward, we had our roundtable. Was it last Thursday night, I guess? Which the Collingswood board does informal sessions with the community to talk about different topics. I had the honor of presenting on curriculum, specifically the science of reading research that is all the rage right now. So the meeting was really enjoyable and productive. We were able to talk about some of the programming. Was able to brag a little bit about some of the initiatives here at OPS. So that was always fun as well. Things we're doing to support there. that was a productive meeting, and feedback from the community was provided to the district administration. All right, last night. Only one presentation last night on the SLO program. That's the School Liaison Officer. One of the really promising pieces of data is that there has been, over the course of this year, a reduction in calls for police support from 117 to 79. So there was a dramatic decrease in calls due to the additional layer of coordination. And I think the consensus was also that situations that were handled with more discretion and understanding as a result of the relationships that have been built up, and the officers' understanding of the school and the routines and the staff, and most importantly, the relationships that they've built with the students. And we'll be looking to continue with that program next year. There'll be a new SLO, and that search will go on over the course of the summer. From the superintendent's report, Dr. McDowell just shared his statement on the state of the budget. Neurodiversity Celebration Week. Did I mention Shrek the Musical? That's coming up. We had a group of student athletes that received various awards as well. And our Renaissance students are doing fabulous as well. On Thursday, upcoming events of note, Thursday, April 18th, we have the high school Broadway musical at 7 p.m. April 23rd is CMS PTA meeting, and April 25th is the High School World Language Honor Society induction ceremony for students who may be participating in that. Much like us, Collingswood submitted their budget for county approval, updated the mental health services grant for year 2, and some additional grant submissions that our students will benefit from. One includes a grant for teacher climate, culture, and innovation, and one for bike maintenance. And the curriculum committee approved some field trips, approved their calendar for Collingswood as well. And the personnel committee approved administrator contracts for Ms. Coleman, Dr. McDowell, and is it Dr. Howell Turner? No, Mrs. Howell Turner, who is the new assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction. And I will send out an email with all those updates and a link for the musical as well. That's it from Collingswood.
Thank you. Can I ask a question real fast? So I saw there was an email about upcoming meetings about referendum. Can you share any more about the meetings?
Yeah. The dates for the there'll be a special board meeting on Tuesday night, the 26th at 6:30 p.m. at the Collingswood cafeteria, as always. So that's where the community will get the full rundown, the official rundown on that, and then there'll be informal informational sessions throughout the month of April, and those will take place in the Collingswood Community Center. Those will be at 6:30 p.m. On April 9th and April 12th. 16th? Sorry. Got so the 9th and the 16th. Got you. Okay. The 12th is my birthday, so I was looking forward to. I was going to bring a cake and everything.
Question. Can I ask a question on this? The new SLO, we're replacing the SLO after 5 or 6 months? That's a question.
So, so the officer who was filling the role of the school liaisons officer resigned from the Collingswood Police Department and left the department. And so he is no longer a police officer in Collingswood. And so we made the decision, in partnership with the borough, we made the decision that due to the decline in activity and the systems that we had put in place, we did not believe it was prudent to place an individual in the role first, that had not been trained, and two, did not select to be in that particular role. And so we're suspending the program for the last 2.5 months of school in order for them to identify a new officer, get that individual trained for us to actually potentially restart the program in September. And so what happens is that the existing memorandum of agreement between the law enforcement and schools kicks back into effect. And so we will be, we're still operating with the same MOA. We're just going to be changing some of our processes for the remainder of the school year.
Okay, the thought is not to do away with the position, just to replace the officer.
It's currently, we're currently evaluating, and so the police department will be submitting additional data on activity. One of the things that we did preemptively was that we moved the SLO funding out of the general fund. We secured a federal safety and security grant last year, which will be paying for the role, and so the funding is still there. And pending the outcome of interviews and the selection of a new candidate, that'll determine whether or not we move forward.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a yes. The other thing, yeah, it was mentioned that there were 70 some calls to the Collingswood Police Department so far this year. Is that sounds like an awful lot of calls to me.
There were 120 last year.
Oh, good. No, seriously, that's not good. 70 calls is incredible. We're only 2/3 of the way through the school year.
So you have to also be mindful of there are incidents that per state statute require a phone call to law enforcement. Sometimes it's through simple notification. So for example, when the high school administration confiscates contraband on campus, they have to put in technically a call. They're not dialing 911. They actually have to call the department so that the contraband can be picked up, secured by a law enforcement officer. If a weapon is located on campus or found somewhere, that also has to be secured by a local law enforcement officer. If there is a handle with care notification due to an incident that took place over the weekend, not on campus, that constitutes a call from law enforcement where they have to come to the school, notify the school that there was an incident requiring law enforcement intervention with one of the students, and then a conversation with school administration. And so there are a lot of different categories of call, and not all of them are 911 emergent calls.
I fully understand that, but coming to school to pick up a weapon, that causes me a little concern on the surface. It just sounds like an incredible number of contacts with the police department. And if one of the students involved in something over the weekend and the officer has to come tell you about it, that's a problem too, because that student is now in school Monday morning with all of our kids, unless it's one of our kids.
And so it's not always an incident that, and so without divulging the privacy issues, for example, if there was a family dispute that took place over the weekend, then law enforcement, per state statute, would need to come and notify the school so that a level of care, support, and additional resources can be provided to the student. So it's really more of a check-in mechanism when things do happen. And so that's what the law dictates.
Yeah, and you can explain all you want on this stuff. I'm still of the opinion that 70 calls is one heck of a lot of calls for this point in the school year. And it's an improvement. That's good. But last year was a little bit of a disaster too. So there should be some improvement. And our SLO, who might have some effect on this, why the number of calls are down, isn't there anymore.
I understand, but I would like to also challenge the characterization around disaster. And so in terms of the number, when we have 1,500 individuals on a campus at any given time, if you break that down, that is 7 incidents, 7 to 8 incidents per month. And, one incident is one too many, but, at the end of the day, there are a lot of opportunities and there are a lot of categories that we are tracking data that we didn't historically track. And so I think that what the information shows is that we're moving in the right direction. What the data shows and the partnership, per the words of local law enforcement, is that it is a dramatic increase in positive school culture on the secondary campus.
These are the people that sent you an SRO to and advocated for it. So them saying that it's a positive effect, I'm not sure I would characterize that as an honest evaluation. Be that as it may, it's moving in the right direction. That's true. That's all good. I still think it's a lot of.
Thanks. Ms. Barnett, do you have something to add?
Of which we have 250 students receiving services due to mental health.
And that may well be, maybe it's not the SRO that had anything to do with it. Maybe it's your work that is causing a reduction. Well, I'll give you credit for it. But unfortunately, we talk about all this and things are moving in the right direction. All this is good until the first kid shows up with a AR-16. And I'm not suggesting that's going to happen. I'm just suggesting that if you have enough incidents, sooner or later one of them's going to go bad. And that's probably beyond your control.
Bill, can I I'm not offering another opinion, just a question. Data means nothing to me without just a number. I mean, thank you for breaking it down by month. How does that compare to 4 years ago? How does that compare to neighboring districts? How does that, Bill, you all often ask how we compare to everyone around us. I think Mrs. Barnett's point of, a mental health crisis is a good one. And I'd also challenge us to, rather than fear-mongering, ask, well, what else are you suggesting then we're not doing or can we do?
No, I unfortunately don't have an answer for that. I wish I did. And I'm not trying to fearmonger. I started out with, I thought 70 incidents of police activity in the school year at this point in time was a lot. I don't know how we're doing compared to surrounding districts. Maybe we're doing terrific. Maybe we're doing terrible. But the fact that there's a national mental health crisis doesn't make me feel at all better that things are going well in Collingswood. I'm sorry.
Sure.
PTA?
Well, I just wanted to comment, Rich, thank you for being so communicative about and sending reports and links, really helpful links, especially from the Collingswood Town Hall. That was really great. Item 12.02 is the PTA liaison report. Mrs. Rotondo.
Thank you. Just bear with me, guys, because I think I might be losing my voice just a little bit. But the PTA did meet on March 5th. It's an energized group. They covered a lot of ground in, maybe was it like an hour and a half, but there was a lot of good stuff covered. Namely things like the pretzel sales from February, where they were very successful. The talent show was all the rage at the meeting. Everybody raved about how successful it was, and the money that brought in from the treasurer's report. They also reported that a few new staff members have joined to bring the memberships up. They applauded our room ambassadors for doing such a great job with Valentine's Day celebrations, and always checking in with the teachers to see what it is that they need. Ms. Bolden gave an update. She covered a lot of things that were upcoming at the time of me sharing this. They're now in the past, like things like Lego night were getting ready to start, senior scholarships, OMASAC events. She communicated the schedule that we have both this week and next being not the typical full week schedules. Teresa and I tag teamed on an update from our group here. They reviewed other past events, such as the book fair, the blood drive, Hot Wheels, various other events from February. There were dine and donates. One was for 5th grade promotion. That was at Mulligan's. Then there were, I think there was a general dine and donate for the PTA. They, really cool, they celebrated that 60 readers at that time had registered for Readathon. And it was still pretty early in the program, and they had already had about $3,000 raised. And all of the money they decided that's raised as part of that will come here to the library. The 5th grade promotion committee gave an update. They're going to be working on yard signs, a skate party, blue and gold night, swim parties, so a lot of things going on for the 5th graders. Shared some dates for the civic associations doing the bunny pictures, and that's the 30th of this month. Pretty early in planning phase, but they're looking at June 7th for the adult dinner night, and went into a little bit about OMASAC's gym night that was coming up that had just passed. And they talked about some board positions coming available, and that includes a treasurer. And then a possible maybe hybrid role between a membership and a recording secretary. Their next meeting is April something.
9th. It's on our, yeah.
And yeah, I was glad to have attended. It was an informative meeting, and they're really excited about what they do. They do a great job. And that's what I got for that.
Thank you for that great report, and sorry about your voice. Item 12.03 is the OMASAC report from Ms. Butchko.
So there will be a gym night on Friday night. It will not be a celebrity gym night. There was hope that it might be at one point, but it will just be a regular gym night. Still lots of fun. OMASAC has submitted the grant for next year too. They're looking forward to possibly co-sponsoring an assembly with OBS, and Adam will be in touch with you, Ms. Bolden. That's my update. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12.04 is the Oakland Education Foundation. I'm happy to report that the board members are trying to schedule a meeting on Thursday of this week. And I know an item to discuss is ways that the foundation can fundraise and support the school's budget or things that are being taken out of the budget. Item 12.05 are policies for first reading. We have 5 here. 1140 is educational equity policies / affirmative action being revised. 1523 comprehensive equity plan revised. 1530 equal employment opportunities revised. 1550 equal employment anti-discrimination practices revised. And 2260 equity in school and classroom practices revised. And just in light of the CPAG presentation, I am making a note that I want to look at what policies do exist for inclusion. If we have any, I'm embarrassed that I don't know. So I'd like to add that to the agenda for our April committee meeting. And so we are seeking approval for items 12.01 through 12.05.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions from board members? All right, on to a roll call.
Mrs. Ezekiel?
Yes on all but 2260, no.
What? Ah. Mr. Stotts?
Excuse me, yes.
Mrs. Rotondo?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Tavy?
Yes.
Mrs. Marmion?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes, no on policy 2260.
Mrs. Butchko?
Yes. All right, moving on to section 13. This is miscellaneous. 13.01 is the February HIB report. So this will be for our approval tonight. Is there a motion to approve that item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, board members? All right, on roll call.
Mrs. Ezekiel,
Yes.
Mr. Stotts,
Yes.
Mrs. Rotondo,
Yes.
Mr. McMillan,
Yes.
Mr. Tavy,
Yes.
Mrs. Marmion,
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Bushko.
Yes. All right, section 14. This is the second public comment section. This is for any items you wish to bring to the board. Please stand, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. All right, hearing none. Before we adjourn, just quick announcements for the board. I would like to go into an executive session to talk about a topic on shared service agreement, and then we're going to move into our mini retreat, which I will try not to be too long, but the purpose of the mini retreat is to discuss board goals around communication. I know we've all been here a while, so it'll be fast, but we've talked about the need to do this. Seems like Tuesday nights are the best night for us all to come together. So I would like to do that tonight. So we're going to make a motion to adjourn. Would it be to adjourn this meeting and then go into an executive session?
Executive session.
Okay.
Can I ask one question? Sorry that I didn't get to in a prior section. How, Dr. McDowell, how are you communicating about advocacy for support of helping us get more funding from the state tomorrow? You had said it's tomorrow. How's that being communicated?
It'll go out to families' email.
Okay. I
With-
would
with-
suggest
with-
text
with-
also. We've talked about this
as a
in
reminder, it'll
communication.
be a text to
To
point
go to the
people
email.
to go to their email, but there'll be documents with a letter template
Right.
and representative contact information
That you can do online, kind of like.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Fabulous. Thank you.
Can I ask another fast question too? This is one that we've already done,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I missed it. But I think that we were told the sign that we have out front, which is great, would cost under $1,000, and the check we issued tonight was for $4,000. We weren't told that. Okay, I missed it then. I'm sorry.
We did review the quote in, it might have been community relations. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was a different sign. That was a different sign that Teresa and I vetoed. Sorry.
Okay.
I apologize, but yeah, that was an early version that we needed better, and yeah. But we did review the quote in advance. Okay. So we're going to do it. Is there a motion to go into an executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we are now in executive session. So this is for board members only. The recording, can you turn that off? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.